continue along here, one of the most competitive races in the entire state of New Jersey, with the New Jersey legislature up for control, it has to do with defeating a guy who was not only involved in the crafting of the new curriculum standards in New Jersey that parents are absolutely opposed to, but also oversaw as New Jersey killed our veterans, literally killed our veterans during COVID. Here to talk about it with me is Republican Senate candidate Steve Dnistrian. Steve, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it very much. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Rich. Great to be with you.
Tell us about this campaign. I know that now it's after Labor Day. I had you on over the summer. It's after Labor Day. People are tuning in now. They're back to school. Kids are back to school. Parents are back to work. Tell us about this campaign and why this race is so important.
Sure. Well, the issues just are exploding left and right, Rich. So, and people are just so incredibly disgusted at what has been going on over the last several years coming out of Trenton. So, and this race places my opponent, Senator Vin Gopal, at the center of so many of these key issues. You mentioned veterans, Rich, to begin with. The Department of Justice issued last week a scathing report, which was a forced report onto the state because the state had failed to follow up to rectify deficiencies in nursing homes for veterans over the past 3 years. And that was on the heels of more than 200 veterans, at least, dying in state-run nursing homes during the pandemic. And the question that we are raising now, Rich, is a very simple one. If people went to jail for Bridgegate during the Christie administration, who needs to be held accountable for the deaths of more than 200 of our veterans? And nobody in Trenton is taking responsibility. When you go an inch under the surface, as I just did reading this report, Vin Gopal's voting record starts to surface, and it is an embarrassment to the state and to the country. Right after the deaths of these veterans in the nursing homes, Rich, Gopal's colleagues in the Senate, his Democratic colleagues, lobbied him hard. He was the chairman of the Senate Committee on Military and Veterans Affairs. He had the discretion and the authority to initiate investigations into the deaths of these veterans. One of his colleagues encouraged him to do that with subpoena power, and he shut them and her down. In deference to the
that's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. I just came to that. I just found out that fact a day or two ago, Rich, when I went through his voting record. And you see the outrage, even in his party at that time. He chose, Rich, to protect Phil Murphy, not our veterans. And then a bipartisan group of senators came forward with a piece of legislation designed to improve the conditions, the subpar, substandard medical conditions in these nursing homes. And again, Gopal, as chairman of that committee, shut that effort down. It's inexplicable, Rich. He goes around wrapping the flag around himself and standing next to veterans at these photo ops. He should be ashamed of himself. And you know what? We are not going to let go of this. We owe this to the veterans. We owe it to their families. And there has been some financial settlements where the state has admitted its neglect, but that's not enough, Rich, right? 200 veterans died. Somebody needs to be held accountable on the level, within the administration, within the legislature, and at these facilities to account for the deaths of these veterans. They fought in wars for us. They fought in conflicts around the world. And where did they die? Right here in our home state. Why? Because of the cowards in Trenton who did the wrong thing, who now are playing deflection games, politically speaking, and they should all be embarrassed of themselves.
Yeah, I agree. Steve Dnistrian is with me. He's running for the state senate in New Jersey against Vin Gopal. This issue of this report, this scathing report saying that the state of New Jersey deprived these veterans of their constitutional rights and, killed them. And let's be honest here, what happened here. These policies killed these heroes. And it's not, you mentioned Bridgegate, and that's an excellent comparison because people went to jail, but also, too, the lack of coverage by the media. Bridgegate, the corporate media was out there every single day camping out out, and they had the cameras live in Fort Lee. There has been crickets over this. And that was a point, obviously, that was made by actually a New Jersey reporter named Dustin Rassiopi. The national media has yet to report on this because it makes Phil Murphy look horrible, as it should make him look horrible, and there deserves to be justice and accountability over what happened to these heroes.
Yeah, there needs to be accountability, bottom line. There needs to be a grand jury investigation. There needs to be accountability. I mean, look where Phil Murphy took this. He put the name of his then Commissioner of Public Health, Rich, on a building in Trenton in her tribute. Does that make any sense to anybody? Nobody has been held accountable for the deaths of at least, Rich, 200 veterans. How do we live with that? We can't live with that. The only people fighting this fight are the veterans themselves from the VFW organizations around the state. They've been promised by Phil Murphy that there would be a grand jury investigation. That was 2 years ago. And nothing, Rich, nothing.
When we think about that, Steve, and we talk about a grand jury investigation into this, if you were the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee in the Senate, what would you do?
Well, we would initiate that immediately, right, in cooperation with the Attorney General of the state. But he's too busy suing school districts here in the state instead over parental notification and gender education.
Suing school districts. That's right in your backyard in Monmouth County, New Jersey. That's been one of the districts at the center of this big fight over should parents be notified if their child is identifying as transgender in the school, Steve Dnistrian, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. The latest poll from Monmouth University on this subject, Rich, tells us that the vast majority of parents in the state, 81%, want schools to be mandated to notify parents when and if a child raises questions about parental notification. And 77% of parents do not want gender identity taught in elementary schools. Yet, out of touch with the will of the people, you have the Attorney General suing 3 school districts that wanted to revise that policy to allow parents to be notified. These school boards, Rich, are comprised of voluntary members who are parents, representing the members of those school districts, the parents. And the state is pushing forward regardless of that input. Mark my words, Rich. The countdown clock is on now until Vin Gopal flips on this issue. Because if anything, he's a politician. And he will change his tune and all of a sudden, mark my words, come out all of a sudden out of the blue for parental rights because he's in a very heated election and he's running from his voting record. And if I were him, I'd do the same thing. But you can't escape it. You can't escape it, Rich.
Steve, the other issue I want to talk to you about, and we've talked about this before, the wind turbines they want to build. We thought the project was dead, but now it turns out they've already started the destruction of the New Jersey shore as they're trying to tear up Ocean City, New Jersey. And protesters were arrested yesterday and more today. We're out there protesting. I just find it to be absolutely shameful that this is going to continue. And the evidence is clear. I mean, Michael Schellenberger's documentary shows us, Steve Dnistrian, running for state senate in New Jersey. It shows us without question scientific evidence that yes, the wind turbine project is responsible for the deaths of whales and dolphins, and Vin Gopal deserves to lose his seat just for the fact that he is complicit in the destruction of the Jersey Shore and the extinction of a species, the North Atlantic right whale.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I've done before getting involved in this race, Rich, I've done consulting in the private sector, in the energy sector specifically, and with a company that was bidding on a transmission job for this. And then that wrapped up, and I was approached about running for office. So I'm unusually well equipped to ask piercing questions on this subject matter. And instead of answering 2 simple questions, what is happening to our oceans and why not support a moratorium, right? Plus, what will the true costs of this industrialization of the ocean cost all taxpayers around the state? Instead of answering those questions, Gopal is busy attacking me, planting stories left and right, trying to distract the electorate from the true issues. And again, because he has no good answers. It is so disastrous, Rich, to see them plowing forward without answering those basic questions for everybody, right? They're just plowing ahead. Murphy is plowing ahead regardless of where what people are thinking about this. Another poll out of Monmouth University shows that support for offshore wind is rightfully in massive decline because we have had 70 dead whales wash up, 49 plus dead dolphins wash up on the shores of New York and New Jersey over the past 2 years, I believe it is. And nobody can explain this. And they just want to plow forward. Regardless of not answering the cost, they're going to put the economy of the shore at risk, and they are going to alter the horizon, the beautiful view over the Jersey Shore forever. And they don't care what people think.
Steve Dnistrian, last question I have for you. A lot of our law enforcement officers in New Jersey, the retired ones in particular, have been lobbying right now for a cost of living adjustment. Is that something you would support if you are elected to the New Jersey State Senate?
Yeah, this is a big issue with a lot of my friends and brothers and sisters in law enforcement. I've had several meetings on this, and I was really encouraged to see the supporters of this, Rich, coming forward with lots of different options on lots of different approaches to address the COLA issue. And one particularly salient point presented to me was, a police officer that retired 30, maybe even 35 or 40 years ago, Rich, was making $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year. They're really not looking for much. And that seems like a fair proposal to entertain, as long as we can find places in the state budget to take something out of so we can give it back to people who deserve it, Rich. Right? That's my thinking about this issue at this point.
Well said, my friend. Well said. His website is steve4nj.com. Steve Dnistrian, New Jersey State Senate. It is Legislative District 11. A very, very important race. Please support Steve if you want to give to him financially as well. If we can pick up this seat and defeat Democrat Vin Gopal, we'll be one seat closer to a Republican majority in the New Jersey Senate and taking back New Jersey. And as a parent with 3 kids in New Jersey schools, Steve, I am praying that is exactly what happens. Steve4nj.com. Best of luck, my friend. Come back and see us very, very soon.
Thank you very much, Rich. Appreciate you.